The champagne flutes shattered against the marble floor, and Amara Johnson felt the vibrations through her feet before she saw the twisted faces surrounding her. The grand ballroom of the Patterson estate, decorated with white roses and crystal chandeliers, had fallen into chaos. Women in expensive dresses pointed at her. Men in tailored suits whispered behind their hands. And there, standing beside his mother in the center of the room, was Jeremy Patterson, the man who had promised to love her forever, shaking his head like she was something disgusting he had stepped in. Amara's hands trembled as she tried to sign, to ask what was happening, but no one was looking at her hands. They were too busy staring at the hearing aids visible behind her dark curls, at the way she stood perfectly still because she couldn't hear the cruel laughter that was surely filling the room. She could only read it on their faces, in the way their mouths moved in exaggerated mockery, in the way Jeremy's mother clutched her pearls like Amara was a disease that might spread. Jeremy's lips moved rapidly. Amara had become excellent at reading lips over her 26 years, a skill born from necessity rather than choice. "I can't do this," he was saying to his mother, not even having the decency to face Amara directly. "My colleagues will think I married her out of pity. The board members, the investors, they'll never take me seriously." Mrs. Patterson's response was equally clear on her thin, painted lips. "Tell her to leave. Give her some money. She should be grateful we even considered this." Amara's heart cracked into pieces she wasn't sure could ever be put back together. She had met Jeremy at a coffee shop where she worked as a barista, one of the few jobs that didn't mind her deafness as long as she could read orders from a screen. He had seemed kind then, patient with her speech, willing to learn basic signs. He had told her she was beautiful, that her deafness didn't matter, that love conquered all obstacles. She had believed him. She had believed in the fairy tale that a man from a wealthy family could love a deaf woman from the south side of Chicago, a woman who had grown up in foster care, a woman who had nothing but her hope and her art. What a fool she had been. "Please," Amara spoke aloud, her voice carrying the slight difference in tone that marked her as deaf, though she had worked with speech therapists for years. "Jeremy, please look at me." He finally turned, and the disgust in his eyes was unmistakable. His lips moved slowly as if speaking to a child. "This was a mistake, Amara. You don't belong here. You never did." The room spun. Amara gripped the back of a nearby chair, her knuckles turning pale against the gold-painted wood. She had quit her job for this wedding. She had given up her tiny apartment, had packed her entire life into 2 suitcases now sitting in the coat room. She had no family to return to, no safety net, nothing but the foolish hope that love could bridge the gap between their different worlds. "I should have listened to my friends," Jeremy continued, and Amara could read every cruel word. "They said you would be an embarrassment. They were right." A woman in a green dress laughed so hard she had to dab at her eyes with a handkerchief. A man in a gray suit made a gesture, hands flapping by his ears in a mocking imitation of sign language. Others joined in, their faces twisted with a cruelty that seemed to feed off each other. This was supposed to be her wedding day. These were supposed to be her new family members, her new community. Instead, they were treating her like entertainment, like a joke that had gone on too long. Amara felt wetness on her cheeks and realized she was crying. She never cried in public. She had learned long ago that tears only made people uncomfortable, that her deafness already made her enough of an outsider without adding visible emotion to the mix. But she couldn't stop the tears now. They came hot and fast, blurring her vision, making it even harder to read the lips that continued to move in mockery around her. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She wanted to scream, but what good would that do when she couldn't even hear her own voice properly? She wanted to disappear, to go back in time to 6 months ago when she was lonely but at least not humiliated, not broken in front of dozens of strangers who seemed to take pleasure in her pain. Then the room changed. Amara felt it before she understood it. The vibrations under her feet shifted. People stopped moving. The laughter, which she could see but not hear, ceased. Faces turned toward the entrance of the ballroom, expressions shifting from cruel amusement to surprise, then to something that looked almost like fear. Amara turned, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. A man stood in the doorway. He was tall, with dark brown skin a few shades deeper than her own, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that probably cost more than she had earned in the past year. His expression was cold, controlled, the kind of face that belonged to someone used to power. But his eyes, dark and intense, were fixed on her with something that wasn't pity. It was anger, but not directed at her. It was anger on her behalf. He walked into the room with the kind of confidence that made people step aside without thinking. His shoes clicked against the marble floor, each step deliberate and measured. He moved directly toward Amara, ignoring everyone else as if they were merely furniture in his path. When he reached her, he stopped. His hands moved, fluid and practiced, forming signs that Amara recognized immediately. American Sign Language, executed perfectly. "Are you all right?" his hands asked. Amara stared, too shocked to respond. Who was this man? Why was he here? And how did he know ASL? His hands moved again. "My name is Theodore Bennett. I was invited to this wedding by a business associate. I did not expect to witness such cruelty." Theodore Bennett. The name crashed into Amara's awareness like a wave. Everyone knew that name. Theodore Bennett, the tech billionaire who had built an empire on accessibility software and devices. Theodore Bennett, whose company had revolutionized communication technology for deaf and disabled communities. Theodore Bennett, who was regularly featured in magazines and news programs as one of the most powerful men in America. And he was standing in front of her, signing to her, while everyone else in the room watched with slack jaws. "I am fine," Amara signed back, though it was obviously a lie. Her hands shook as she formed the signs. Theodore's expression softened slightly. His hands moved again. "No, you are not fine. And you should not have to be." He turned then, facing the crowd. When he spoke aloud, his voice carried a weight that made the entire room go still. Amara couldn't hear his words, but she watched his lips, watched the way his jaw set with determination. "This woman," Theodore said, and Amara could read each word clearly, "is worth more than all of you combined. Her deafness does not make her less. It makes her stronger for surviving in a world full of people like you." Mrs. Patterson stepped forward, her face red. "Mr. Bennett, you don't understand the situation. This girl is not suitable for our family. She has nothing to offer." "Nothing to offer?" Theodore's lips formed the words with clear disdain. "She offered your son her trust, her love, her future. And he threw it back in her face like garbage. If anyone here has nothing to offer, it is him." Jeremy tried to speak, but Theodore held up a hand, silencing him without a word. Theodore turned back to Amara. His hands moved in sign language again. "I have a proposal for you. You can refuse if you wish. But I hope you will not." Amara's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. "What proposal?" "Marry me instead." The room erupted. Amara could see mouths opening in shock, hands gesturing wildly, faces turning red with anger or pale with disbelief. But Theodore kept his eyes on her, waiting for her response. "You don't know me," Amara signed, her hands trembling. "I know enough," Theodore signed back. "I know you deserve better than this. I know you deserve respect, dignity, and a chance to be who you are without apology. I can offer you that. I can offer you security, support, and freedom to pursue your dreams. All I ask is that you give this arrangement a chance." "Why?" Amara sighed. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Theodore's hands paused, then moved with careful precision. "Because my younger sister is deaf. Because I watched her face cruelty her entire life until she found people who saw her value. Because no one should endure what you just endured. And because something tells me you are exactly the kind of person who deserves every good thing life has to offer." Amara looked at Jeremy, at his mother, at all the people who had laughed at her. Then she looked back at Theodore, at this stranger who had defended her when no one else would. Every practical part of her brain screamed that this was crazy. You didn't marry strangers. You didn't accept offers that seemed too good to be true. You didn't trust people who swept in like heroes from a storybook. But what choice did she have? Return to a life with no job, no home, no prospects? Face the world alone again, always on the outside looking in? Or take a chance on someone who, at the very least, treated her like a human being worthy of respect? Amara's hands moved almost of their own accord. "Yes, I accept. Thank you." Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people? Have you ever wondered if kindness still exists in a cruel world? Drop a comment below and subscribe to see how Amara's choice changes everything. Will this stranger keep his promise, or will she be disappointed again? Theodore's face remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes. Relief maybe. Or satisfaction. He turned to face Jeremy and his family. "The wedding will proceed as planned," Theodore announced, his voice carrying authority that no one dared challenge. "But with a different groom. I will handle all the expenses. The guests can stay or leave as they choose. And if anyone has anything negative to say, they can direct it to me." Mrs. Patterson looked like she might faint. Jeremy's face had gone from red to white to a sickly gray. "You can't be serious," Jeremy said, his voice apparently loud enough that several people flinched. "You just met her. And in 5 minutes, I have shown her more respect than you did in 6 months. Theodore replied, each word precise and cutting. That says everything anyone needs to know about character. He offered his arm to Amara. She took it, her hand shaking as she slipped it through the crook of his elbow. The fabric of his suit was soft and expensive under her fingers. She could feel the solid muscle of his arm, the steady certainty of his presence beside her. They walked through the ballroom together, past the shocked faces and gaping mouths. Amara kept her head high even though she wanted to look at the floor. She had spent so much of her life trying to be small, trying not to draw attention, trying to make others comfortable with her deafness. But Theodore walked like he owned the world, and his confidence seemed to flow into her through their connected arms. When they reached the entrance to the ballroom, Theodore paused. He pulled out his phone and typed rapidly, then showed Amara the screen. I am texting my assistant. She will bring appropriate papers and arrange for an officiant. If you need time to think, we can wait. But I meant what I said. I will marry you today if you are willing. Amara looked at the message, then back at Theodore's face. His expression was patient, not pressuring, just waiting. She thought about the 2 suitcases in the coat room, about the empty future that had been stretching before her just minutes ago, about the feeling of being utterly alone in the world. She took his phone and typed a message. I am willing. Thank you for your kindness. I will not forget it. Theodore read her words and nodded. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a small upturn of his lips, but it reached his eyes and made him look younger, less intimidating, almost gentle. I think, he typed back, this might be the best decision I have made in a very long time. The next 2 hours passed in a blur that Amara could barely process. Theodore's assistant, a brisk woman named Patricia who wore a red dress and moved with efficient grace, arrived with a folder full of documents. She signed fluently, explaining each paper before Amara signed it. There was a prenuptial agreement that was so generous Amara had to read it 3 times to believe it. Theodore was offering her a monthly allowance that was more than she had made in a year at the coffee shop. He was offering her access to education, to housing, to healthcare, to everything she had only dreamed about. And if the marriage ended for any reason, she would keep a settlement that would secure her future. This is too much, Amara signed to Patricia, her hands shaking. Why would he offer all this? Patricia's response was simple. Mr. Bennett believes in taking care of people. He believes in fairness. And he believes in you even though he just met you. That is who he is. Amara signed the papers with a hand that trembled but didn't hesitate. She had spent her whole life being practical, being careful, protecting herself from disappointment. But sometimes you had to take a leap. Sometimes you had to trust that kindness was real. Theodore had disappeared for a while, making phone calls and arrangements. When he returned, he had changed into a fresh suit, this one charcoal gray that made him look even more striking. He carried a small box, which he opened to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. White gold with a single diamond, elegant and understated. If you do not like it, we can choose another, he signed. But I thought you might want something for the ceremony. Amara looked at the ring, then at Theodore. It is perfect. Thank you. The ceremony itself was brief. Most of the original guests had left, scandalized or confused or simply uncomfortable with the strange turn of events. But a few remained, curious or perhaps just too invested in gossip to leave. Theodore's assistant served as a witness, along with the wedding planner who looked completely baffled but professional. The officiant, a kind-looking older man who also knew sign language, kept the ceremony simple. He signed and spoke simultaneously, making sure Amara could follow everything. When it came time for the vows, Theodore turned to face her fully. His hands moved in signs as he spoke aloud. I, Theodore Bennett, take you, Amara Johnson, to be my wife. I promise to respect you, to support you, and to honor you for as long as we both agree to this arrangement. I promise to see you, truly see you, and to value who you are. Amara's eyes filled with tears again, but these were different from the tears she had cried earlier. These were tears of relief, of gratitude, of hope that maybe, just maybe, life could surprise you in good ways too. When it was her turn, Amara spoke aloud while signing. Her voice was unsteady, but she didn't care. I, Amara Johnson, take you, Theodore Bennett, to be my husband. I promise to be honest with you, to respect you, and to give this arrangement my best effort. Thank you for your kindness. I will not forget it. The officiant pronounced them married. Theodore slipped the ring onto Amara's finger. It fit perfectly, catching the light from the chandeliers above. Then Theodore did something that surprised her. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. When she didn't move, he pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. It was chaste, respectful, nothing like the passionate kiss expected at weddings. But it felt more intimate than anything Amara had experienced before, because it was given with care, with consideration for her comfort. When Theodore pulled back, he signed, "Are you ready to leave this place?" Amara nodded eagerly. "Very ready." They walked out of the Patterson estate together, husband and wife by law if not by love. Theodore's car waited outside, a sleek black vehicle that looked like something from a movie. A driver opened the door for them, nodding respectfully at Amara as she slid into the leather interior. As they pulled away from the estate, Amara watched through the window as the building grew smaller. She thought she saw Jeremy standing on the front steps watching them leave. She felt nothing when she looked at him. No regret, no longing, not even anger anymore. Just emptiness where her feelings for him had been, and a strange sense of freedom. Theodore tapped her shoulder gently to get her attention. When she turned, he signed, "Are you hungry? We could stop for food before going to my home." Amara realized she was starving. She had been too nervous to eat that morning, anticipating her wedding day. "Yes, please. That would be nice." Theodore leaned forward and tapped the driver's shoulder, communicating something Amara couldn't see. The driver nodded and changed direction. They ended up at a small restaurant that looked nothing like the fancy places Amara expected a billionaire to frequent. It was a cozy spot with booths and simple tables, the kind of place that served comfort food and had regulars who came every week. Theodore guided her to a corner booth that offered privacy. A waitress approached, smiling warmly. Theodore gestured to Amara, and the waitress pulled out a notepad, making it clear Amara could point to items on the menu instead of ordering aloud if she preferred. It was a small gesture, but it made Amara's throat tight with emotion. How many times had she struggled in restaurants, trying to make herself understood, facing impatience or frustration from staff who didn't want to accommodate her needs? Amara ordered a burger and fries, suddenly craving simple, familiar food. Theodore ordered the same, then dismissed the waitress with a polite nod. "I know you have questions," Theodore signed once they were alone. "I will answer whatever you want to know." Amara had 1,000 questions, but she started with the most important one. "Why did you really do this? The truth, please." Theodore leaned back in the booth, his expression thoughtful. His hands moved slowly, carefully. "I told you about my sister. Her name is Rachel. She is 23 now, smart and funny and talented. But growing up was hard for her. Kids were cruel. Adults were worse sometimes. They treated her like she was broken, like her deafness was something to fix or hide or apologize for." He paused, his jaw tightening. "When she was 16, she tried to end her life. She felt like a burden, like she would never fit anywhere. That was the worst day of my life. I almost lost her because the world could not see how valuable she was." Amara's hand moved to her chest, feeling the ache of shared pain. She understood that darkness, that feeling of being too much trouble, not worth the effort. "Rachel is thriving now," Theodore continued. "She works at my company helping design accessibility features. She is engaged to a wonderful person who sees her, really sees her. But I will never forget how close I came to losing her. And when I saw you in that ballroom, facing all that cruelty, all I could think was that someone needed to step in. Someone needed to show you that you have value, that you deserve respect." "But marriage," Amara sighed. "That is a big step just to prove a point." Theodore's slight smile returned. "Maybe I am impulsive. Or maybe I believe in following my gut. Something told me you were worth taking a chance on. And the practical side is that this helps both of us. I face pressure from my board to settle down, to present a more stable image. You need security and support. Why not help each other? What if I am not what you think I am?" Amara sighed. "What if I disappoint you? Then we figure it out together," Theodore signed simply. "I am not expecting perfection. I am just expecting honesty." The food arrived and they ate in comfortable silence. Amara couldn't remember the last time she had felt this relaxed around someone new. Usually, there was always tension, always the awareness that she was different, that accommodations had to be made. But Theodore just treated her like a person. He signed naturally, made sure she could see his face when he wanted to communicate, and didn't make a fuss about any of it. After they finished eating, Theodore paid the bill and they returned to the car. This time, the drive was longer, taking them out of the city and into an area where houses sat far apart, surrounded by trees and privacy. When they pulled up to Theodore's home, Amara's breath caught. It wasn't a house. It was an estate, sprawling and modern, all glass and clean lines that seemed to blend into the landscape. Lights glowed warmly from inside, making it look welcoming rather than cold. "This is your home?" Amara signed, feeling overwhelmed. "Our home now," Theodore corrected gently. If you want it to be. They entered through a large front door that opened into a foyer with high ceilings. A woman waited inside, older, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and a kind face that crinkled when she smiled. She signed a greeting to Amara, introducing herself as Helen, the housekeeper. Helen has worked for my family for 20 years, Theodore signed. She helped raise Rachel and me after our mother passed away. She is family. Helen signed directly to Amara. Welcome home, dear. I have prepared a room for you. I hope you will be comfortable. Thank you, Amara signed, feeling tears threaten again. Why was everyone being so kind? It felt unreal, like a dream she might wake up from at any moment. Helen led them upstairs to a bedroom that was bigger than Amara's entire former apartment. It had a large bed with a blue comforter, a sitting area with comfortable chairs, and windows that overlooked a garden. An attached bathroom gleamed with marble and glass. Your things from the Patterson estate have been retrieved and are in the closet, Helen signed. If you need anything at all, just let me know. I am here to help, not to intrude. After Helen left, Theodore lingered in the doorway. My room is down the hall, he signed. You have complete privacy here. This is your space. I will not enter without permission. Where will you tell people I came from? Amara signed. What story will we use? The truth, Theodore signed. That we met and I recognized something special in you. That I decided life was too short not to take chances. People can believe it or not. I do not care about their opinions. I care about not embarrassing you, Amara signed. Theodore stepped into the room, his expression serious. Listen to me, Amara. You could never embarrass me. Your deafness is not a flaw. It is just a part of who you are. Anyone who thinks less of you because of it is not worth our time or energy. He moved closer, his presence somehow comforting rather than intimidating. I want you to do something for me. I want you to stop apologizing for existing. Stop making yourself small. Stop assuming you are a burden. You are not. You are valuable exactly as you are. Amara's vision blurred with tears for what felt like the 100th time that day. I do not know how to do that, she signed. I have spent my whole life trying not to be too much trouble. Then learn, Theodore signed. We will figure it out together. That is what this arrangement is about. Supporting each other. Being honest with each other. Building something better than what either of us had before. He moved toward the door, then paused. Get some rest. Tomorrow we will talk about what you want to do with your future. I meant what I said about supporting your dreams. Whatever they are, we will make them happen. After he left, Amara sat on the edge of the enormous bed, trying to process everything that had happened. This morning she had woken up preparing for a wedding she thought would be the start of her happily ever after. Instead, she had been humiliated, rejected, and rescued by a stranger who had more compassion in his little finger than Jeremy had in his entire body. She pulled out her phone, the cheap prepaid one she had been using for years. There were 17 missed calls from Jeremy, 12 text messages begging her to reconsider, to come back, to give him another chance. Amara deleted them all without reading past the first few words. He had made his choice. She had made hers. There was nothing left to say. She changed into comfortable clothes from one of her suitcases, washed her face and climbed into the bed. The sheets were soft, probably Egyptian cotton or something equally expensive. The mattress cradled her body like a cloud. She should have felt out of place, like an imposter in this beautiful room, in this beautiful home, married to a man she had just met. But instead, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Amara felt safe. She felt like maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change in ways she had never dared to dream. Sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows woke Amara the next morning. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The wedding. Jeremy's rejection. Theodore's unexpected proposal. The ceremony that had actually happened. She lifted her left hand and stared at the ring that proved it wasn't a dream. She was married to Theodore Bennett. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it filled her with a strange sense of calm. She had made her choice. Now she would live with it and see where it led. After showering in the marble bathroom and dressing in jeans and a green t-shirt from her limited wardrobe, Amara ventured downstairs. She found Helen in the kitchen, a massive space with gleaming appliances and an island big enough to seat 6 people. Helen saw her and smiled, signing good morning. Did you sleep well? Better than I expected, Amara signed back honestly. Where is Theodore? He had an early meeting at his office, Helen signed. But he left this for you. She handed Amara a tablet. When Amara turned it on, she found a message typed in large, clear letters. Good morning, Amara. I hope you slept well. I have meetings until noon, but I will return after lunch. Please make yourself at home. Explore the house and grounds. Helen will help you with anything you need. We will talk this afternoon about your future plans. There is no rush. Take your time settling in. Also, breakfast is whatever you want it to be. Helen is an excellent cook, but there is also cereal, fruit, and other simple options if you prefer. This is your home now. Act like it. Theodore. Amara read the message twice, her chest feeling tight. He was so thoughtful, so careful to make sure she felt comfortable. It was overwhelming and wonderful all at once. Helen tapped her shoulder. What would you like for breakfast? Just cereal and fruit is fine, Amara signed. I do not want to make extra work. Helen's expression turned firm. It is not extra work. It is my job and I enjoy it. Now would you like eggs? Pancakes? French toast? An omelet? Amara blinked. An omelet sounds wonderful. With vegetables if that is okay. More than okay, Helen signed with a warm smile. One vegetable omelet coming up. While Helen cooked, Amara explored the kitchen, marveling at the details. There was a coffee maker that looked like it belonged in a fancy cafe. A refrigerator with a glass door so you could see inside without opening it. Cabinets full of dishes in every color and style. It was like walking through a magazine spread. The omelet Helen made was the best thing Amara had eaten in months. Real vegetables, fresh herbs, cheese that actually had flavor. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. After breakfast, Amara took Theodore's advice and explored. The house was even bigger than she had realized. There was a formal living room, a casual den with a massive television, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a gym, a home theater, and more bathrooms than seemed necessary for any house. Everything was clean and modern but somehow still felt warm, lived in, comfortable. The back of the house opened onto a patio that overlooked a garden. Amara stepped outside, feeling the morning sun on her face. The garden was beautiful, full of flowers and winding paths. A fountain stood in the center, water cascading down in patterns she could see but not hear. For a moment she felt sad about that. Then she remembered Theodore's words from last night. Stop apologizing for existing. She could not hear the fountain. So what? She could see it, could see the way the water caught the light, could appreciate its beauty in her own way. That was enough. Amara spent the morning wandering the grounds, sitting by the fountain, and trying to wrap her mind around her new reality. Around noon, her stomach started to rumble again. She returned to the house and found Helen preparing lunch. Theodore called, Helen signed. He will be home in 30 minutes. He asked if you would like to eat lunch with him on the patio. Yes, Amara signed. That sounds nice. When Theodore arrived, he was still wearing his work clothes, a navy suit with a red tie. But he had loosened the tie and rolled up his sleeves, making him look less formal, more approachable. He greeted Amara with a slight smile and a signed hello. They ate lunch together on the patio, chicken salad sandwiches and fresh fruit. Theodore asked about her morning, and Amara told him about exploring the house and garden. He seemed genuinely interested, asking questions about what she thought of different rooms, if there was anything she would like to change. This is your home too, he signed. If you want to redecorate your room or any other space, just tell Helen or me. We can arrange it. After lunch, Theodore led Amara to the library. They sat in comfortable chairs near a window and Theodore pulled out a leather notebook. I want to talk about your future, he signed. What do you want to do with your life? What dreams have you put aside because they seemed impossible? Amara hesitated. She had learned not to talk about her dreams. They made people uncomfortable, made them look at her with pity or doubt. But Theodore waited patiently, his expression open and encouraging. I want to be an artist, Amara signed slowly. I want to paint. I have always loved it, but I could never afford proper training or supplies. I took a few community classes over the years, but nothing serious. It seemed like a foolish dream for someone like me. Someone like you? Theodore signed, his eyebrows raised. You mean someone talented and passionate? Amara felt her cheeks warm. Someone deaf, with no money, no connections, no way to break into the art world. And now? Theodore sighed. Now I have connections, Amara signed, looking at him. At least I have you. If you meant what you said about supporting my dreams. I never say things I do not mean, Theodore signed firmly. Here is what I propose. I will enroll you in art classes at the best school in the city. Private lessons with master artists if you prefer. I will set up a studio here at the house where you can work. And I will introduce you to gallery owners and collectors I know. What you do with those opportunities is up to you. But I will make sure you have every advantage. Amara's hands shook as she signed. That is too much. I cannot accept all that. Theodore leaned forward, his expression serious. Yes, you can. In fact, you will. We made an agreement, remember? I promised to support you. Let me keep my promise. Please. Why? Amara sighed. Why do all this for me? Because talent should be nurtured, not wasted, Theodore signed. Because you deserve a chance to become who you are meant to be. And because helping you brings me joy. Is that so hard to believe? It was hard to believe. Amara had spent so long being told she was a burden, a problem to solve, an obstacle to work around. The idea that helping her could bring someone joy felt foreign, almost suspicious. But Theodore's face showed only sincerity. He genuinely seemed to want to help, with no strings attached, no conditions, no expectations of anything in return. Okay, Amara signed finally. I accept. Thank you. I will work hard. I will not waste this opportunity. I know you will not, Theodore signed. Now let me show you something. He led her upstairs, past her bedroom, to a room at the end of the hall. When he opened the door, Amara gasped. It was a studio. Large windows filled the space with natural light. An easel stood in the center. Cabinets lined one wall, and when Theodore opened them, Amara saw they were stocked with paints, brushes, canvases, and every supply an artist could want. I had this set up this morning while we were having lunch, Theodore signed. It is yours. Create whatever you want. No pressure, no judgment, just space to explore your talent. Amara walked into the room, running her fingers over the easel, the clean canvases, the tubes of paint. Professional-grade materials, the kind she had only dreamed of using. Her eyes filled with tears again, but she was past feeling embarrassed about it. Thank you, she signed, the words feeling inadequate. Thank you so much. Theodore smiled, a real smile this time that reached his eyes and made him look younger. You are welcome. Now, there is one more thing I want to discuss. They returned to the library and Theodore pulled out his tablet. He typed a message and showed it to Amara. My sister Rachel wants to meet you. I told her about yesterday about our arrangement. She is excited to have another deaf woman in the family. Would you be comfortable meeting her? No pressure if you need more time to adjust. Amara read the message twice. The sister. Someone who understood what it was like to navigate the world without hearing. Someone who would not see her deafness as a flaw or an inconvenience. I would love to meet her, Amara signed. When? Tomorrow if that works for you, Theodore signed. She wants to take you to lunch, just the two of you. She thought you might feel more comfortable getting to know each other without me hovering. That sounds wonderful, Amara signed. She meant it. The idea of having a friend, someone who truly understood, filled her with hope. That evening, Theodore worked in his home office while Amara returned to her new studio. She stood in front of a blank canvas for a long time, brush in hand, trying to decide what to paint. So many emotions swirled inside her. Fear, hope, gratitude, confusion, excitement. How could she capture all that on canvas? Finally, she began to paint. She did not plan it, did not sketch first, just let her brush move across the canvas in strokes of blue and green and gold. Colors that reminded her of water and growth and sunlight. As she painted, she felt something inside her begin to shift. The tightness in her chest eased. The constant worry that had been her companion for so long faded into the background. For the first time in her life, Amara felt like she could breathe. Rachel Bennett arrived at the house the next morning driving a bright red car that suited her vibrant energy. She was beautiful, with natural hair styled in twist-outs and warm brown skin that glowed in the sunlight. She wore a yellow dress that made her look like a ray of sunshine. When she saw Amara, Rachel's face lit up with a genuine smile. She immediately started signing, her hands moving quickly with the ease of a native signer. Finally, another deaf woman in this family, Rachel signed with enthusiasm. Do you know how boring it gets being the only one? Theodore tries and he is pretty good at signing, but it is not the same as talking to someone who really gets it. Amara found herself smiling back, Rachel's energy infectious. It is nice to meet you too. Let's get out of here, Rachel signed. I know the best brunch place and we have a lot to talk about. They drove to a restaurant downtown, a trendy spot with exposed brick walls and hanging plants. Rachel seemed to know everyone there. The host signed a greeting to them both, and Amara realized this must be a deaf-friendly establishment. Once they were seated and had ordered, Rachel leaned forward with a mischievous grin. Okay, I need to know everything. My brother calls me yesterday and says he got married. Theodore. Mr. I am too busy for relationships. Mr. I will get married when I'm 40. Married to a woman he just met. I almost drove off the road. Amara felt her cheeks heat. She explained the situation, signing quickly, trying to convey the chaos of that wedding day, Jeremy's cruelty, Theodore's unexpected intervention. Rachel's expression shifted from amused to furious as Amara described the mockery she had endured. "That Jeremy person is a waste of space," she signed vehemently. "And his family sounds horrible. You are better off without them." "That is what Theodore said," Amara signed. "Theodore is right," Rachel signed. "He usually is, which is annoying. But in this case he is absolutely right. You know why he did it, do you not? Why he stepped in? He told me about you," Amara signed. "About what you went through." Rachel's expression softened. "I almost died because I could not see any hope. Because every day felt like a battle just to exist in a world that did not want me. Theodore never forgave himself for not seeing how bad it had gotten. He thinks he failed me. He did not, but try telling him that." She paused, her hands still. "When I finally started therapy and got better, Theodore made a promise. He said he would never let anyone make another deaf person feel the way I had felt. Not if he could stop it. That is why he built his company around accessibility. That is why he donates millions to deaf education and advocacy. And that is why he married you. Because he could not walk away from someone experiencing that pain." Amara felt tears prick her eyes again. "He barely knows me." "He knows enough," Rachel signed. "Look, I am not saying this will turn into some big romance. Maybe it will, maybe it will not. But I know my brother. He does not do things halfway. If he committed to helping you, he will follow through. You can count on that." The food arrived and they ate while Rachel told stories about growing up with Theodore. How he had learned sign language when she was diagnosed with hearing loss at age 3. How he had defended her from bullies in school, once getting suspended for punching a boy who had mocked her. How he had started his first company while still in college, driven by the desire to create technology that would make her life easier. "He is a good person," Rachel signed. "Sometimes too serious, too focused on work. But his heart is in the right place. And now you can help me make sure he actually relaxes sometimes." After brunch, Rachel took Amara shopping. "You need clothes that make you feel confident," she signed. "No offense, but that wardrobe you have is not going to cut it. You are married to a billionaire now. People will judge you based on appearances." Stupid but true. They spent hours in boutiques, Rachel pulling dresses and outfits with the eye of someone who knew fashion. Amara tried to refuse when she saw the price tags, but Rachel would not hear it. "Theodore gave me his credit card and told me to make sure you got whatever you needed," Rachel signed. "If I come back without making a serious dent in his bank account, he will be disappointed. So really, you would be doing me a favor by buying lots of clothes." Amara laughed, really laughed for the first time in days. Rachel made everything feel light, easy, fun. By the end of the day they had bags full of clothes, shoes and accessories. Rachel had insisted on bright colors. "You look amazing in jewel tones," she had signed. "Emerald green, royal blue, deep purple. Own it." When they returned to the house, Theodore was home early. He took one look at all the shopping bags and signed to Rachel. "Did you buy out the entire store?" "Only half," Rachel signed back with a grin. "We are going back next week for the other half." Theodore shook his head, but he was smiling. He turned to Amara. "Did you have a good day?" "The best," Amara signed honestly. "Your sister is wonderful." "She is pretty great," Theodore signed, dodging when Rachel threw a decorative pillow at him. Rachel left after dinner, hugging Amara tightly before she went. "I am so glad you are here," she signed. "We're going to be good friends. I can tell." That night, as Amara hung up her new clothes in the massive closet, she felt something she had not felt in years. She felt like she belonged somewhere. Like she had people who cared about her, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely wanted her in their lives. The next few weeks fell into a comfortable rhythm. Theodore enrolled Amara in art classes at a prestigious institute. Her instructor, a renowned painter named Elizabeth Torres, was patient and encouraging. She pushed Amara to experiment, to take risks, to find her own style rather than copying others. "You have raw talent," Elizabeth said during their third session, her words translated by an interpreter who was always present. "But more than that, you have something to say. I can see it in your work. You just need to learn how to say it clearly." Amara threw herself into her art with a passion that surprised even her. She painted early in the morning before breakfast, during the afternoons when Theodore was at work, sometimes late into the night when inspiration struck. The studio became her sanctuary, the place where she could express everything she had kept bottled up for so long. Theodore took an interest in her progress without being intrusive. He would ask to see her work, would offer thoughtful comments, would display pieces around the house. He seemed genuinely proud of her development. "You are getting better every day," he signed one evening as they looked at her latest painting, an abstract piece full of movement and color. "This is gallery quality. You have to say that," Amara signed. "You are my husband." "I do not have to say anything," Theodore signed. "I choose to say it because it is true." Their relationship remained platonic, comfortable, built on mutual respect and growing friendship. They ate meals together, watched movies with subtitles, talked about their days. Theodore taught Amara about his business, explaining the technology his company developed. Amara taught Theodore about the art world, sharing what she was learning in her classes. Slowly, Amara began to trust that this was real. That Theodore truly wanted nothing from her except her company and her happiness. That she was not a burden or a charity case, but a person worthy of kindness and support. One evening, about a month after their wedding, Theodore asked Amara to accompany him to a business gala. "It will be boring," he signed apologetically. "Lots of speeches and networking. But I would appreciate your company. We can leave early if you are not comfortable." Amara felt nervous but agreed. This would be her first public appearance as Theodore's wife. She chose one of the dresses Rachel had helped her pick out, a deep blue gown that made her feel elegant and confident. She wore her hair down in natural curls, and took extra care with her makeup. When she came downstairs, Theodore was waiting in the foyer. He wore a black tuxedo that made him look impossibly handsome. When he saw her, his eyes widened slightly and he signed, "You look beautiful." Amara felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you. You look very handsome too." The gala was held at a fancy hotel downtown. As they entered the ballroom, Amara felt eyes turning toward them. She gripped Theodore's arm and he covered her hand with his own, a silent gesture of support. People approached throughout the evening, introducing themselves, making polite conversation. Theodore interpreted when needed, making sure Amara never felt left out. Several people asked how they had met, and Theodore stuck to his simple story. "We met and I knew immediately she was special. Sometimes you just know." No one seemed to question it. Or if they did, they were too polite to say so. About halfway through the evening, Amara excused herself to use the restroom. When she returned, she found Theodore talking to a couple. The woman looked familiar, and after a moment, Amara realized why. It was Jeremy's mother, Mrs. Patterson. Amara's steps faltered, but she forced herself to keep walking. She would not run. She would not hide. She lifted her chin and approached Theodore. Theodore saw her and immediately included her in the circle, his arms sliding around her waist. In a protective gesture. "Darling, you remember Mrs. Patterson." Mrs. Patterson's face had gone pale. She looked between Amara and Theodore, her expression twisted with shock and something that might have been regret. "I see you have done well for yourself," Mrs. Patterson said, her words clear enough for Amara to read on her lips. "I married well," Amara replied aloud, her voice steady. "I am very happy." Mrs. Patterson opened her mouth as if to say more, but Theodore smoothly excused them, guiding Amara away. Once they were out of earshot, Theodore signed, "Are you okay?" "I am fine," Amara signed back. And she was. Seeing Mrs. Patterson again had not hurt the way she thought it would. She felt nothing but pity for the woman who had judged her so harshly. "Jeremy has been trying to contact me," Amara signed. "Through social media, through email. He says he made a mistake, that he wants me back." Theodore's expression darkened. "What do you want to do?" "Block him," Amara signed. "I have no interest in anything he has to say. He made his choice. I made mine. I am happy with my choice." Theodore smiled, and it was warm and genuine. "Good. You deserve so much better than him." They stayed at the gala for another hour before leaving. In the car on the way home, Theodore seemed thoughtful. "What are you thinking about?" Amara sighed. Theodore hesitated, then signed slowly. "I was thinking that this arrangement has turned out better than I expected. You have become a friend, Amara. A real friend. I enjoy your company. I look forward to coming home and hearing about your day. This house feels less empty with you in it." Amara's heart swelled with emotion. "I feel the same way. You have given me so much. A home, a future, a chance to be myself. I do not know how to thank you." "You do not need to thank me," Theodore signed. "Just be happy. That is all I want." As Amara got ready for bed that night, she realized something. She was happy. For the first time in her entire life, she was genuinely, deeply happy. She had a home, people who cared about her, and the freedom to pursue her passion. She had found something she had stopped believing existed. She had found hope. 2 months into the marriage, Amara's life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Her art was improving rapidly under Elizabeth's instruction. She had completed 6 paintings that even she could admit were good. Theodore had invited a gallery owner, a woman named Natasha Rodriguez, to the house to view Amara's work. Natasha had been impressed, promising to include 3 pieces in an upcoming group show featuring emerging artists. "You have a unique voice," Natasha had said through her interpreter. "Your work has emotion, depth. People will respond to it." Amara had floated on happiness for days after that meeting. Her dream of being a real artist, of having her work shown in an actual gallery, was coming true. Rachel had become a close friend. They met for lunch at least once a week, texted constantly, and Rachel had introduced Amara to her circle of friends, many of whom were also deaf. For the first time in her life, Amara felt part of a community, a group of people who shared her experiences and understood her challenges without explanation. Her relationship with Theodore had settled into something comfortable and warm. They still maintained separate bedrooms, still kept things platonic. But there was an ease between them now, a friendship built on mutual respect and genuine affection. They cooked dinner together sometimes, watched movies, played board games that Theodore had adapted with visual cues so Amara could fully participate. Helen had become like a mother figure, always ready with a kind word or a comforting meal. The house truly felt like home. Then Jeremy showed up. Amara was working in her studio one afternoon, lost in a painting of a woman breaking free from chains made of shadows. It was her most personal work yet, a visual representation of how she had felt leaving that ballroom with Theodore, leaving behind all the expectations and limitations others had placed on her. Helen knocked on the studio door and waited for Amara to acknowledge her before entering. Her expression was troubled. "There is someone at the door for you," Helen signed. "Jeremy Patterson. I told him you were busy, but he insists on seeing you. He says it is important." Amara's stomach dropped. She had been so successful at avoiding Jeremy for 2 months, blocking his calls and messages, that she had almost convinced herself he had given up. "Tell him to leave," Amara signed. "I have nothing to say to him." Helen nodded but looked uncertain. "He seems very upset. He says he will not leave until he speaks with you." Amara set down her brush with a sigh. Maybe it was better to face him once and make it clear that she wanted nothing to do with him. Then he would finally leave her alone. She followed Helen downstairs. Jeremy was pacing in the foyer, looking nothing like the confident man she had thought she knew. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled. He looked like he had not slept properly in days. When he saw Amara, his face crumpled with relief. His lips moved rapidly. "Amara, thank God. I have been trying to reach you for weeks. We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about," Amara said aloud, her voice firm. "You need to leave." "Please," Jeremy said, his desperation clear even without hearing his tone. "Just give me 5 minutes. That is all I ask. 5 minutes to explain." Amara crossed her arms. She could refuse, could have Helen call security to remove him. But part of her wanted to hear what he could possibly say to justify what he had done. 5 minutes, Amara said. "Then you leave and never contact me again." She led him to the formal living room but did not sit down. She stood with her arms still crossed, waiting. Jeremy launched into his explanation. "I made a mistake, Amara. The biggest mistake of my life. My mother, my family, they pressured me. They said terrible things about you, about us. They threatened to cut me off financially. I was weak. I gave in to their pressure. But I never stopped loving you." "You never loved me," Amara said, her voice cold. "If you loved me, you would have defended me. You would have stood up to your family. Instead, you let them humiliate me. You threw me away like I was trash." "I was scared," Jeremy said. "Scared of losing everything. My trust fund, my position in the family business, their approval. I know that is not an excuse. I know I hurt you. But I have spent the past 2 months realizing that none of that matters without you." He stepped closer and Amara stepped back, maintaining distance between them. "I heard you married Theodore Bennett," Jeremy continued. "I know it is just an arrangement. I know he married you out of pity or some business deal. That is what everyone says. But you do not have to stay with him, Amara. Come back to me. We can make it work. I will stand up to my family this time. I will tell them we are getting married no matter what they say." Amara stared at him, genuinely shocked. Did he really think she would believe him? Did he really think she would go back to him after everything? "You are wrong about everything," Amara said clearly. "Theodore did not marry me out of pity. He married me because he is a good person who saw someone being treated badly and decided to help. And what we have is more real than anything I ever had with you. You cannot mean that, Jeremy said. You barely know him. What kind of relationship can you have with someone you just met? An honest one, Amara said. A respectful one. Theodore treats me like I have value. He supports my dreams. He never makes me feel like my deafness is a problem to be solved or hidden. He sees me, Jeremy. He really sees me. You never did. Jeremy's face twisted. So you are just going to stay married to a stranger? Live in his big house, spend his money, pretend to be happy? I am not pretending, Amara said. I'm happy. Happier than I ever was with you. And Theodore is not a stranger anymore. He is my friend. He is family. He is worth 10 of you. You cannot throw away what we had, Jeremy said, his voice getting louder. Amara could see the volume in the way his neck strained. 6 months together, all those plans we made. That has to mean something. It meant something, Amara said. It taught me what I do not want. It taught me that I deserve better than someone who is ashamed of me. It taught me that love without respect is worthless. She walked to the door and opened it. Your 5 minutes are up. Leave now. Jeremy stared at her, his expression cycling through disbelief, anger, and finally resignation. You are making a mistake. No, Amara said. I made a mistake when I said yes to you the first time. Leaving you was the best decision I ever made. Jeremy opened his mouth to say more, but Helen appeared in the hallway, her expression stern. Behind her stood Theodore, who must have just arrived home. His face was dark with anger, his posture protective as he moved to stand beside Amara. Theodore's hands moved in sharp, angry signs directed at Jeremy. Even though Jeremy could not understand them, the message was clear from Theodore's expression. Get out. You need to leave, Theodore said aloud, his voice carrying authority that made Jeremy flinch. Now, if you contact my wife again, I will have my lawyers file a restraining order. Am I clear? Jeremy looked between them, seeing the united front they presented, and something in his face crumpled. He left without another word, his shoulders slumped in defeat. After the door closed, Theodore turned to Amara. Are you all right? Amara realized she was shaking, adrenaline flooding her system. I'm fine. Just angry. How dare he show up here? How dare he think I would go back to him? Theodore guided her to a sofa and sat beside her. What did he want? Amara explained the conversation, signing as she spoke, wanting Theodore to understand every detail. When she finished, Theodore's expression was grim. He thinks our marriage is fake, Theodore signed. He thinks you will leave me and go back to him. I told him he was wrong, Amara signed. I told him what we have is real. Theodore's expression softened. Is it? Real, I mean. Amara met his eyes, those dark, intense eyes that had first looked at her with such unexpected compassion. Yes. Maybe not a traditional marriage, but it is real. You are my friend, Theodore. My family. That is more real than anything I had with Jeremy. Theodore smiled, but there was something in his expression that Amara could not quite read. I am glad you feel that way. You have become important to me too, Amara. More important than I expected. They sat in silence for a moment, something unspoken hanging in the air between them. Then Theodore stood, breaking the tension. I should let you get back to your painting, he signed. I have some work to finish anyway. After he left, Amara returned to her studio, but she could not focus on her painting. Her hands shook too much, her mind too scattered. She kept thinking about the way Theodore had looked at her, the way he had said she was important to him. What did that mean? What did she want it to mean? She was still pondering these questions when Rachel showed up an hour later, bursting into the studio with her usual energy. I heard Jeremy showed up, Rachel signed rapidly. Are you okay? Do I need to go find him and punch him? Despite everything, Amara laughed. No punching necessary. I handled it. Theodore called me, Rachel signed, settling into the chair Amara kept in the studio for visitors. He was worried about you. He wanted me to come check on you. I am fine, Amara signed. Just processing. Rachel studied her with knowing eyes. You told Jeremy that what you have with Theodore is real. It is real, Amara signed. We are friends. That is real. Friends? Rachel signed, her expression skeptical. Is that all you want? Amara's hands froze mid-sign. What do you mean? Come on, Amara, Rachel signed. I have seen how you two look at each other. I've seen how Theodore lights up when you walk into a room. I have seen how you smile when he signs something funny. That is not just friendship. We have an arrangement, Amara signed weakly. We agreed to help each other. That is all. Maybe that is how it started, Rachel signed. But things change. Feelings develop. It would not be the worst thing in the world if you fell for my brother, you know. He is a good catch. He is your brother, Amara signed. You have to say that. I am his sister, Rachel signed with a grin. That means I know all his flaws. And I am still saying he is a good catch. He is kind, loyal, honest, smart, successful, and he already cares about you. What more do you want? I do not know, Amara signed honestly. I do not know what I want. 2 months ago I thought I was going to marry Jeremy. Now I am actually married to Theodore. Everything happened so fast. I have not had time to figure out what I feel. Rachel's expression turned serious. Then take time. Figure it out. But do not let fear stop you from being happy. Do not let what Jeremy did make you afraid to trust again. Theodore is not Jeremy. He will not hurt you. After Rachel left, Amara sat in her studio for a long time, thinking. She thought about Theodore's kindness, his patience, his unwavering support. She thought about the way he made her laugh, the way he challenged her to be better, the way he looked at her paintings like they were precious treasures. She thought about the way her heart sped up when he walked into a room, the way she found herself watching him when he was not looking, the way she had started to think of him not just as a benefactor or a friend, but as something more. Was Rachel right? Were her feelings changing? And if they were, what was she going to do about it? Amara did not have answers yet. But for the first time she was willing to ask the questions. The next few weeks brought a shift in the dynamic between Amara and Theodore. It was subtle, barely noticeable at first. But it was there in the way their fingers brushed when passing dishes at dinner. In the way Theodore's gaze lingered on Amara when he thought she was not looking. In the way Amara found excuses to seek him out, to share a funny story from her art class, to ask his opinion on a painting she was working on. They were both dancing around something neither was ready to name. The gallery show was approaching, and Amara threw herself into preparing her final pieces. Elizabeth had helped her select 5 paintings that worked well together, that told a cohesive story. They were all abstracts, but each one represented a stage of Amara's journey. Darkness giving way to light. Chains breaking. A figure emerging from shadows. A woman dancing under bright colors. Joy. These are powerful, Elizabeth said during their final session before the show. They tell a story everyone can relate to. The story of finding yourself, of breaking free from what holds you back. People will connect with this work. The night of the gallery show, Amara was a bundle of nerves. She changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a deep purple dress that Rachel had insisted she buy. She wore her hair up this time, showing off drop earrings that Theodore had gifted her the day before. For luck, he had signed when presenting them to her. Not that you need it. Your talent speaks for itself. When she came downstairs, Theodore was waiting. He wore a charcoal suit with a purple tie that matched her dress. Amara wondered if he had done that on purpose, coordinating their outfits like a real couple. You look stunning, Theodore signed, his expression warm. Thank you, Amara signed back. I'm so nervous. What if no one likes my work? What if people laugh? Theodore took her hands in his, the contact sending warmth through Amara's entire body. No one will laugh. Your work is beautiful and meaningful. You have nothing to worry about. And even if by some chance people do not appreciate it tonight, that does not change the fact that you are talented. Art is subjective. Not everyone will love everything. But the right people will see your value. I promise. His confidence steadied her. Will you stay close tonight? I do not want to face this alone. I will not leave your side unless you ask me to, Theodore signed. They arrived at the gallery to find it already filling with people. Natasha greeted them warmly, introducing Amara to several other artists whose work was featured. The gallery was a light, bright space with white walls that made the artwork pop. Amara's 5 paintings were displayed together on one wall, spotlit and labeled with her name and the titles she had chosen. People began to gather around her work almost immediately. Amara watched from across the room, her heart pounding as strangers examined her paintings, pointed at details, discussed them in clusters. Theodore stood beside her, his presence a steady anchor. A woman approached them, smiling widely. She introduced herself as Jennifer Liu, an art critic for a major newspaper. She had an interpreter with her. Your work is remarkable, Jennifer said through her interpreter. The emotion is raw, honest. I particularly love the piece titled Breaking Free. The way you used color to show transformation is brilliant. Can you tell me about your process? What inspires you? Amara took a deep breath and began to talk about her art, about using painting to express feelings she could not always put into words. Jennifer asked thoughtful questions, genuinely interested in Amara's perspective. Other people joined the conversation, and soon Amara found herself surrounded by art lovers who wanted to know more about her work. Theodore stepped back, giving her space to shine. But every time Amara looked his way, he was watching her with an expression of such pride and warmth that it made her chest tight. By the end of the evening, all 5 of Amara's paintings had sold. 5 people had seen value in her work and had been willing to pay money for it. Real money, not just the polite purchases people made to be nice. "You did it," Theodore signed when they finally left the gallery. "You are a professional artist now. How does it feel?" Amara could not stop smiling. "It feels amazing. Feels like flying. I never thought this could happen to me. Thank you for making this possible." "You made it possible," Theodore signed firmly. "Your talent, your hard work. I just opened a few doors. You walked through them on your own." When they got home, Helen had left champagne chilling and a note of congratulations. Theodore poured 2 glasses and handed one to Amara. They sat in the den, celebrating quietly. The events of the evening replayed in Amara's mind. The way people had looked at her work with genuine appreciation. The conversations she had with other artists. The feeling of being seen not as a deaf woman, but as an artist who happened to be deaf. "I want to do more," Amara signed, the champagne making her bold. "I want to show more work. I want to connect with the deaf art community. I want to help other deaf artists get opportunities like you gave me." Theodore's eyes lit up. "That is a wonderful idea. What if we started a program through my foundation? Grants for deaf artists, scholarships for art education, connections to galleries and shows. You could help design it, could be the face of it if you wanted." "Really?" Amara sighed. "You would do that?" "We would do it," Theodore signed. "Together. This is your vision. I would just provide the resources to make it happen." They talked for hours, brainstorming ideas, getting excited about possibilities. At some point, they moved closer together on the sofa, until their shoulders were touching. It felt natural, comfortable, right? When Amara yawned, Theodore noticed and smiled. "You should get some rest. Big day tomorrow." "What is tomorrow?" Amara sighed. "Nothing specific," Theodore signed. "But every day is big when you are changing the world." Amara laughed and stood, but she felt reluctant to leave, reluctant to end this perfect evening. Theodore stood too, walking her to the staircase. At the bottom of the stairs they paused. Theodore's hand came up, his fingers gently brushing a loose curl from Amara's face. The touch was light, barely there, but it sent electricity through her entire body. "I am proud of you," Theodore signed with one hand, the other still resting against her cheek. "You are incredible, Amara. Never forget that." Amara's breath caught. She could feel the warmth of his palm against her skin, could see the intensity in his eyes. For a moment she thought he might kiss her. For a moment she wanted him to. But then Theodore stepped back, his hand falling to his side. "Good night," he signed. "Good night," Amara signed back, her heart still racing. She climbed the stairs slowly, looking back once to find Theodore still watching her. The expression on his face was complex, full of emotions she could not quite name. In her room, Amara sat on the edge of her bed, pressing her hands to her flushed cheeks. Something had shifted tonight. Something fundamental and undeniable. The question was what she was going to do about it. The next morning, Amara woke to find a newspaper on her breakfast table with a sticky note from Theodore. Page 12, the note read. She flipped to page 12 and found Jennifer Liu's article about the gallery show. There was a photo of Amara's paintings and a full paragraph discussing her work. The review was glowing, calling her an artist to watch, praising her use of color and emotional depth. Amara read it 3 times, unable to believe this was really happening. She was being reviewed in a major newspaper. People were talking about her art. Her dream was coming true. She found Theodore in his home office, working on his laptop. He looked up when she entered, a smile spreading across his face. "You saw the review?" he signed. "I cannot believe it," Amara signed. "This is incredible." "This is just the beginning," Theodore signed. "Natasha called this morning. She wants to do a solo show for you in 3 months. Just your work. What do you think?" Amara's knees went weak. A solo show? Her, Amara Johnson, a girl from foster care who used to paint on scraps of paper because she could not afford real canvases? "Yes," she signed without hesitation. "Yes, I want to do it." Theodore stood and crossed to her, taking her hands in his. "I knew you would say that. You are brave, Amara. Braver than you realize." Looking up into his face, seeing the genuine admiration there, Amara felt something inside her finally click into place. She knew what she wanted. She knew how she felt. The question was whether Theodore felt the same way, and whether either of them was brave enough to turn their arrangement into something real. Preparing for a solo show required an intensity of work that Amara had never experienced before. She needed at least 15 new paintings, all cohesive in style but varied enough to keep viewers interested. Natasha suggested themes of identity, transformation, and resilience. Topics Amara knew intimately. She spent long days in her studio, sometimes forgetting to eat until Helen brought trays of food and refused to leave until Amara took a break. The work was exhausting but exhilarating. Each painting felt like a piece of her soul translated into color and form. Theodore adapted his schedule to spend more time at home. He said it was because he wanted to support her process, but Amara suspected it was also because he enjoyed her company as much as she enjoyed his. They fell into a rhythm that felt domestic, comfortable, intimate in ways that had nothing to do with physical touch. Theodore started cooking dinner several nights a week, experimenting with recipes he found online. He was a terrible cook at first, burning pasta and oversalting vegetables, but he improved with practice. Amara found his determination charming, the way he refused to give up even when a dish turned out badly. "This is inedible," Theodore sighed one evening, staring at a casserole that had somehow turned into a solid brick. "I followed the recipe exactly." Amara laughed, taking a forkful and immediately regretting it. "Maybe we order pizza?" "Pizza sounds perfect," Theodore sighed with a rueful grin. They ordered pizza and ate it on the patio, watching the sun set over the garden. The fountain caught the golden light, creating patterns of shadow and brightness that Amara itched to capture on canvas. "Can I ask you something personal?" Theodore sighed as they finished eating. "Of course," Amara sighed back. "Do you ever wish you could hear?" Theodore's hands moved carefully as if worried the question might offend. "I know that is probably not the right way to ask. I just wonder if you feel like you are missing something." Amara appreciated his honesty. Most people were too uncomfortable to ask direct questions about her deafness. "Sometimes," she sighed truthfully, "I wonder what music sounds like, what my own voice sounds like to others. I wonder what birds sound like, what rain sounds like. But then I think about what I would lose if I suddenly could hear." Theodore's eyebrows rose. "What would you lose?" "My perspective," Amara sighed. "The way I experience the world is different from hearing people. I notice things others miss because I rely on my eyes so much. The way light moves, the way people's faces change when they talk, the rhythm of someone's breathing. My deafness shaped who I am, shaped my art. If I could hear, I would not be me anymore. So no, I do not wish I could hear. I wish the world was better designed for people like me. But I do not wish to be different than I am." Theodore watched her with an expression of such intense focus that Amara felt heat rise to her cheeks. "That is beautiful," he sighed. "You are beautiful. The way you see the world, the way you express it through your art. Everything about you is beautiful." The moment stretched between them, charged with something electric. Amara's heart pounded so hard she was sure Theodore could see it. "Thank you," she sighed, her hands trembling slightly. They cleaned up the pizza boxes together, moving around each other in the kitchen with the ease of people who had shared space for a while. When Theodore's hand brushed Amara's as they both reached for a glass, neither pulled away immediately. The touch lingered, deliberate and warm. That night, Amara lay in bed unable to sleep. She kept thinking about Theodore's words, the way he had looked at her, the way his touch had made her feel. She was falling for him. Maybe she had been falling for a while and was only now admitting it to herself. But what if he did not feel the same way? What if she ruined their friendship by wanting more? What if she was reading things wrong? The next morning, Rachel showed up for their weekly lunch date. She took one look at Amara's face and sighed, "Okay, spill. What happened?" They went to their favorite cafe, the deaf-friendly one where the staff all knew basic signs. Once they had ordered and found a quiet corner, Amara told Rachel everything. About the growing tension between her and Theodore, about the way he looked at her, about her own confused feelings. "I do not know what to do," Amara sighed. "We have this arrangement. It works. What if I mess it up by wanting more?" Rachel leaned back in her chair, studying Amara with knowing eyes. "Do you want to know a secret about my brother?" "What?" Amara sighed. "He has been in love with you for at least a month," Rachel sighed matter-of-factly. "Maybe longer. Everyone can see it except apparently you too." Amara's heart stuttered. "That is not true. He has never said anything." "Because he is Theodore," Rachel sighed with exasperation. "Mr. Responsible. Mr. I have to do the right thing. He thinks you need space and time to figure out your feelings without pressure. He thinks pushing you would be taking advantage of the power dynamic in your arrangement. He is being noble and stupid. How do you know all this? Amara sighed. Because he told me, Rachel signed. 2 weeks ago. He called me at midnight, completely freaking out because he realized he had real feelings for you. He wanted advice on what to do. I told him to just tell you, but he said he could not. He said you had been through too much, that you needed to come to him when you were ready, if you were ever ready. Amara sat back, processing this information. Theodore had feelings for her. Real feelings. And he was holding back because he wanted to protect her, to give her choice and agency. What should I do? Amara sighed. Tell him how you feel, Rachel sighed. Life is too short to waste time being noble and stupid. If you have feelings for him, tell him. The worst that could happen is you have an awkward conversation. The best that could happen is you get to be happy with someone who already adores you. Amara spent the rest of the day thinking about Rachel's words. By the time Theodore came home from work that evening, she had made up her mind. She was going to tell him. She found him in the library reviewing documents on his tablet. He looked up when she entered, his face lighting up with a smile that made her heart flutter. How was your day? He sighed. Good, Amara sighed. Can we talk? Theodore set aside his tablet immediately, giving her his full attention. Of course. Is everything okay? Amara sat in the chair across from him, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. She had never been good at expressing feelings verbally. But she had to try. I need to tell you something, she signed slowly. And I am scared to say it because I do not want to ruin what we have. But I think I will regret it more if I do not say anything. Theodore leaned forward, his expression concerned. You can tell me anything, Amara. Whatever it is. I have feelings for you, Amara signed, her hands shaking. Not just friendship feelings. Real feelings. Romantic feelings. I think I have been falling for you for a while now, and I did not want to admit it because this arrangement was supposed to be simple. But it is not simple anymore. At least not for me. She paused, gathering courage. I understand if you do not feel the same way. I understand if you want to keep things as they are. But I could not keep pretending that I do not care about you as more than a friend. You deserve honesty, and so do I. Theodore sat very still, his expression unreadable. For a terrible moment, Amara thought she had made a huge mistake. Then his hands moved, slowly at first, then with increasing confidence. I was trying to give you space, he signed. I was trying to be patient, to let you heal from what Jeremy did, to let you figure out what you wanted without pressure from me. But the truth is, I have had feelings for you for weeks. Maybe since that first night when you looked at me with such bravery despite everything you had just been through. He stood and moved to kneel in front of her chair, taking her hands in his. You are not just my wife on paper, Amara. You are the person I think about when I wake up. You are the person I rush home to see. You are the person whose happiness matters more to me than my own. I did not plan to fall for you. But I did. Completely. Amara felt tears spill down her cheeks, but they were happy tears, joyful tears. Really? Really? Theodore signed with one hand, the other still holding hers. I love you, Amara. I love your strength, your talent, your kindness. I love the way you see the world. I love your laugh. I love everything about you. I love you too, Amara signed, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. Theodore's face broke into the widest smile Amara had ever seen from him. Then, moving slowly to give her time to pull away if she wanted, he leaned in and kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. Then Amara wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him back with all the feeling she had been holding inside. Theodore's arms came around her waist, pulling her closer, and the kiss deepened. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Theodore rested his forehead against Amara's. I have wanted to do that for so long, he signed with one hand while keeping the other around her waist. Me too, Amara signed back. They spent the rest of the evening on the sofa, talking and kissing and making up for lost time. Theodore told her about the exact moment he realized he was falling for her. It was 3 weeks into their marriage, when she had showed him her first completed painting in the new studio. The joy on her face, the way she had glowed with pride and happiness, had hit him like a physical force. Amara told him about her own realization, how it had crept up on her slowly until one day she could not ignore it anymore. So what happens now? Amara sighed. Do we tell people? We tell whoever you want to tell, Theodore signed. This is your choice. But I would like to tell my family if you are comfortable with that. Rachel already knows how I feel. She will be insufferable when she finds out she was right. Amara laughed. She already knows how I feel too. She told me to tell you. My sister is too smart for her own good, Theodore signed with affection. They decided to tell Helen first. She was family after all and deserved to know. When they found her in the kitchen the next morning, she took one look at their joined hands and their glowing faces and smiled. It is about time, Helen signed. I was wondering how long you two would dance around each other. Everyone knew but us, Amara signed with a laugh. Love is often like that, Helen signed. The people involved are the last to see what is obvious to everyone else. Over the next few days they settled into their new dynamic. Theodore moved his things into Amara's room, though they both agreed to keep some separate space for when they needed alone time. They were still learning how to be a couple, still navigating what this new relationship meant. But it felt right. It felt like coming home. Amara's art began to reflect her happiness. The paintings she created for her solo show were full of vibrant colors, of light and movement and joy. Elizabeth noticed the shift immediately. Whatever is happening in your personal life, it is showing in your work, Elizabeth said during a session. These pieces are stunning. They have all the emotional depth of your earlier work but with an added element of hope. People are going to love them. The solo show was only a month away, and Amara was both excited and terrified. But having Theodore's support made all the difference. He believed in her so completely that she was starting to believe in herself. One evening as they were getting ready for bed, Theodore handed Amara a small wrapped box. What is this? She signed. Open it, Theodore signed with a smile. Inside was a necklace with a pendant shaped like a paintbrush crossed with a heart. It was delicate and beautiful, clearly custom made. I had it designed for you, Theodore signed, to remind you that your art comes from your heart, that your talent is tied to who you are as a person. I am so proud of you, Amara. I want you to know that every single day. Amara threw her arms around him, holding tight. I love you so much. I love you too, Theodore signed when they pulled apart. More than I thought possible. As Amara fastened the necklace around her neck and looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked confident, happy, loved. She looked like someone who had found her place in the world. And she had. Against all odds, despite everything that had tried to break her, she had found love, purpose, and home. Theodore's parents lived in a sprawling estate in Connecticut, a 3-hour drive from the city. When Theodore suggested they visit for the weekend so Amara could meet them properly, her stomach filled with nerves. What if they do not like me? She signed as they packed for the trip. They will love you, Theodore signed confidently. My mother has been asking to meet you since the wedding. I have been putting her off until we figured out our own relationship. But now that we are really together, I want them to know. What have you told them about me? Amara sighed. The truth, Theodore signed. That I married you because I saw someone incredible being treated badly. That you are talented and strong and beautiful. That I fell in love with you completely. My parents are good people, Amara. They raised Rachel and me to value character over everything else. They will see what I see. The drive to Connecticut was beautiful, autumn colors painting the trees in shades of red and gold. Theodore drove with one hand, the other holding Amara's. They talked about everything and nothing, comfortable in the easy intimacy they had developed. When they pulled up to the Bennett family estate, Amara's mouth fell open. If Theodore's house was impressive, his childhood home was magnificent. The main house was a classic colonial style, white with black shutters, surrounded by gardens that probably required a full-time staff to maintain. Your family is rich, Amara signed. Theodore laughed. My father built a successful investment firm. But money is not what matters to them. You will see. Theodore's mother, Patricia Bennett, met them at the door. She was a tall, elegant woman with silver hair and Theodore's same dark eyes. Before Amara could even think about greeting her, Patricia pulled her into a warm hug. When she pulled back, her hands moved in fluent sign language. Welcome to our home, Amara. I am so happy to finally meet you properly. Theodore's father, William Bennett, was right behind her. He also signed his greeting, his movements a bit slower than his wife's but still competent. Rachel taught us to sign when she was diagnosed. Patricia signed to Amara. We wanted to communicate with our daughter properly. It has been one of the best things we ever learned. They were shown to a guest room, beautifully appointed with a view of the gardens. Theodore's parents gave them time to settle in before gathering for lunch on the back terrace. Rachel was already there, bouncing with excitement. Finally you came. Mom has been driving me crazy asking when she would get to meet Amara properly. Lunch was a relaxed affair, everyone signing and speaking simultaneously so Amara never felt left out. Patricia asked about Amara's art, genuinely interested in her process and inspirations. William wanted to know about her childhood, her experiences growing up deaf in a hearing world. Amara found herself relaxing, opening up in ways she rarely did with people she had just met. Theodore's parents did not treat her deafness as something to overcome or fix. They simply saw it as part of who she was, no different from any other characteristic. After lunch, Patricia took Amara on a tour of the gardens while the men talked business inside. They walked along winding paths, past rose bushes and sculptures, until they reached a small pavilion overlooking a pond. "I wanted a chance to talk to you alone," Patricia signed as they sat on a bench. "I hope that is okay." "Of course," Amara signed, her nerves returning slightly. "Theodore told us the full story," Patricia signed. "About how you met, about that terrible wedding day, about the arrangement you made. I want you to know something. We do not care about any of that. What matters is that our son is happier than we have seen him in years." She reached over and took Amara's hand. "Theodore has always been so serious, so focused on work and responsibility. After what happened with Rachel, he threw himself into building his company, into advocacy work, into everything except his own happiness. We worried about him. But then he met you." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "He lights up when he talks about you. He smiles more. He laughs more. He is finally living his life instead of just working through it. You did that. You brought joy back into his life. So thank you. Thank you for loving our son." Amara felt her own tears falling. "He saved me," she signed. "I was broken that day. I thought I would never trust anyone again. But Theodore showed me that kindness is real, that good people exist. He gave me a chance to become who I am meant to be. I am the one who should be thanking you for raising such an incredible man." Patricia pulled Amara into another hug, and they sat together for a long moment, two women who loved Theodore in different ways, united in their gratitude for his presence in their lives. That evening the whole family gathered for dinner. Rachel's fiancé Jordan had arrived, a warm, funny person who clearly adored Rachel. They were planning a spring wedding and talked excitedly about their plans. "You have to help me with the decorations," Rachel signed to Amara. "You are the artist. I need your eye for color and design." "I would love to," Amara signed, thrilled to be included. After dinner, William asked to see photos of Amara's artwork on her phone. She pulled up images of her paintings, and the entire family gathered around, offering genuine praise and thoughtful comments. "These are remarkable," William signed. "You have a real gift. Have you thought about what you will do after the solo show?" "I want to create more opportunities for other deaf artists," Amara signed. "Theodore and I have been talking about starting a program through his foundation. Grants, scholarships, connections to galleries. I want to help others the way Theodore helped me." Patricia's expression was radiant. "That is wonderful. Let us know how we can support it. William and I have connections in the art world that might be helpful." "Have you ever felt invisible or alone in a room full of people?" Amara has experienced that her whole life. But now, surrounded by family who truly sees her, everything has changed. Subscribe and comment your thoughts on this beautiful transformation. Later, as Amara and Theodore got ready for bed in the guest room, Amara could not stop smiling. "Your family is wonderful," she signed. "I was so worried, but they made me feel so welcome." "I told you they would love you," Theodore signed, pulling her close. "How could they not? You are amazing." They lay in bed together, Amara's head on Theodore's chest, his arms wrapped around her. She thought about how far she had come in just 4 months. From being humiliated in a ballroom to lying in bed with a man she loved, in a house full of people who accepted her completely. "What are you thinking about?" Theodore signed, adjusting so he could see her face. "How lucky I am," Amara signed. "How different my life is now. Sometimes I cannot believe this is real." "It is real," Theodore signed. "And it is only going to get better. We have so much ahead of us, Amara. Your solo show, our foundation program, Rachel's wedding. Our life together. All of it." "Our life together," Amara signed, testing the words. They felt good, solid, true. The next morning, before they left to drive back home, Patricia pulled Amara aside one more time. "I have something for you," she signed, handing Amara a small jewelry box. Inside was a delicate bracelet with small charms hanging from it. Each charm was different. A heart, a paintbrush, a key, a tree. "This belonged to my mother," Patricia signed. "She passed it down to me, and I always planned to give it to Theodore's wife someday. The charms represent important things. Love, passion, home, and growth. I think they suit you perfectly." Amara's hands shook as she fastened the bracelet around her wrist. "Thank you. I will treasure this." "Welcome to the family, Amara," Patricia signed. Really truly welcome. The drive home was quiet, both Amara and Theodore lost in their own thoughts. But it was a comfortable silence, the kind that exists between people who do not need to fill every moment with words. When they got home, Helen greeted them with news. Natasha called, she signed to Amara. She needs you to come to the gallery tomorrow. She wants to discuss placement for your paintings in the show. Amara's excitement bubbled over. The show was only 2 weeks away now. 2 weeks until her artwork would be displayed in a real gallery, until people would see the pieces of her soul she had poured onto canvas. That night, Amara worked late in her studio, making final touches on her last painting. It was her favorite of all the pieces she had created. She had titled it Becoming. It showed a figure emerging from darkness into light, arms outstretched, face turned upward. The figure was deaf, hearing aids visible, hands forming a sign. The sign for freedom. Theodore came to check on her around midnight. You should get some rest, he signed. You have been working for hours. I just finished, Amara signed, stepping back from the canvas. What do you think? Theodore studied the painting for a long moment. When he finally looked at her, his eyes were shining. It is your best work yet. It is honest and powerful and beautiful. Just like you. He crossed to her and kissed her gently. I'm so proud of you. I hope you know that. I know, Amara signed. I could not have done any of this without you. Yes, you could have, Theodore signed. Maybe it would have taken longer, maybe the path would have been harder. But your talent is your own. Your strength is your own. I just got to witness it. They cleaned up the studio together, then went to bed. As Amara drifted off to sleep in Theodore's arms, she thought about how much had changed. She had a family now. Real family. People who loved her not despite her deafness, but simply loved her, all of her, exactly as she was. She had Theodore, who saw her completely and loved every part. She had Rachel, a true friend and sister. She had Patricia and William, who had welcomed her with open arms. She had Helen, who took care of her like a daughter. She had a career that was just beginning, opportunities spreading before her like a path she could not wait to walk. Most importantly, she had herself. For the first time in her life, Amara liked who she was. She was not ashamed of her deafness anymore. She was not trying to make herself smaller to fit into other people's expectations. She was just Amara, deaf and proud, an artist, a wife, a woman who had overcome darkness to find her own light. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. The morning of Amara's solo show opening, she woke with a mixture of excitement and terror twisting in her stomach. Theodore was already up, bringing her breakfast in bed, which had become one of his favorite ways to start important days. Big day, he signed with a smile. How are you feeling? Terrified, Amara signed honestly. What if no one comes? What if they come but hate my work? Then we will go home and eat ice cream and I will remind you that you are brilliant, Theodore signed. But that is not going to happen. Your work is incredible. Tonight is going to be amazing. The gallery opening was not until evening, which meant Amara had an entire day to worry. Theodore took her out for lunch, then to a movie with subtitles, anything to distract her. Rachel joined them, keeping Amara entertained with funny stories about her latest project at work. When it was finally time to get ready, Amara chose a red dress that Rachel had helped her pick out. It was bold, confident, the kind of dress that made a statement. She wore her hair down in natural curls and the necklace Theodore had given her. When she came downstairs, Theodore was waiting in a black suit with a red pocket square that matched her dress. He signed, "You are breathtaking." The gallery was already filling with people when they arrived. Natasha had done an incredible job with the presentation. Amara's paintings were displayed throughout the main room, each one spotlit and labeled. There were programs describing her journey as an artist, her process, her inspiration. People began arriving in streams. Art collectors, critics, Theodore's business associates, Rachel's friends from the deaf community, students from Amara's art school. The gallery was packed within an hour. Amara spent the evening talking about her work, explaining her process, connecting with people who genuinely appreciated her art. Several paintings sold within the first hour. By the middle of the evening, almost all of them had red dots indicating they were purchased. Then Jeremy showed up. Amara saw him across the room and felt Theodore tense beside her. Jeremy was alone, looking uncomfortable in a suit that did not quite fit right. He made his way through the crowd toward them. "Amara," Jeremy said, his lips easy to read across the space. "I need to talk to you. Please." Theodore's hand found Amara's, a solid presence. "Do you want me to have him removed?" he signed discreetly. Amara considered it, then shook her head. I will talk to him. Just for a minute. I want to hear what he has to say. Theodore looked like he wanted to argue but nodded. I will be right here if you need me. Amara led Jeremy to a quieter corner of the gallery, away from the main crowd. What do you want, Jeremy? I wanted to see your show, Jeremy said. I saw the announcement in the paper. Your work is really good, Amara. I am happy for you. Thank you, Amara said carefully, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I also wanted to apologize, Jeremy said. Properly this time. What I did to you was unforgivable. I let my family's prejudice and my own cowardice destroy something real. I hurt you badly. I know sorry does not fix that, but I wanted to say it anyway. Amara studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or hidden agenda. But he just looked tired and sincere. I accept your apology, Amara said. Not because you deserve forgiveness, but because holding on to anger hurts me more than it hurts you. I have moved on, Jeremy. I have a life I love now. What you did pushed me toward that life, so in a way I should thank you. You are really happy with him? Jeremy asked, looking toward Theodore. With Bennett? I am really happy, Amara said. Happier than I have ever been. Theodore treats me with respect and kindness. He sees my deafness as just one part of who I am, not a flaw to fix or hide. He supports my dreams. He loves me exactly as I am. That is what real love looks like. Jeremy nodded slowly. He is a lucky man. I am a lucky woman, Amara corrected. And now, if you will excuse me, I need to get back to my guests. She walked away without looking back, returning to Theodore's side. He signed, Are you okay? I am perfect, Amara signed back. He apologized. I accepted it. And now I never have to think about him again. Good, Theodore signed. Because there is someone I want you to meet. He led her to a distinguished-looking older man examining her painting, Becoming. The man turned when they approached, and Amara recognized him. Robert Chin, one of the most famous art collectors in the country. His private collection was legendary. Robert's interpreter introduced him, and Robert began signing directly to Amara. Your work is extraordinary. This piece especially. The emotion, the symbolism, the technical skill. It is museum quality. Thank you, Amara signed, trying to keep her hands steady. I would like to purchase it for my collection, Robert signed. But I also want to discuss a larger opportunity. I am curating an exhibition of contemporary American artists for the National Gallery next year. I would like to include 3 of your pieces. Would you be interested? Amara's mind went blank. The National Gallery? Her work in one of the most prestigious museums in the country? Yes, she signed before she could second-guess herself. I would be very interested. Robert smiled. Excellent. I will have my people contact you to arrange the details. After he walked away, Amara turned to Theodore. Did that really just happen? It really happened, Theodore signed, his smile so wide it made his eyes crinkle. You did it, Amara. You made it. Really made it. The rest of the evening passed in a happy blur. By the time the gallery closed, every single one of Amara's paintings had sold. Natasha was already talking about scheduling another show in 6 months. As they drove home, Amara kept looking at Theodore, trying to figure out how to express what she was feeling. What? Theodore signed when they stopped at a red light. I keep thinking about that day in the Patterson ballroom, Amara signed. How completely broken I felt. How sure I was that my life was over. And now look at me. I have everything I ever dreamed of and more. All because you stepped in when no one else would. You gave yourself everything, Theodore signed. Your talent, your hard work, your courage. I just opened a door. You walked through it and built an entire world on the other side. When they got home, Helen had left champagne and a note of congratulations. They took the bottle upstairs and sat on the balcony off their bedroom, looking out at the garden lit by moonlight. I have something to tell you, Theodore signed after they had finished their first glass. Amara set down her glass, her attention fully on him. What? Do you remember when we got married, I told you this arrangement could end whenever you wanted? Theodore sighed. Amara's heart dropped. Was he about to tell her he wanted out? Had she misread everything? I do not want that anymore, Theodore signed. I do not want this to be an arrangement with an expiration date. I want this to be real. Forever real. I want you to be my wife not because of a contract, but because we choose each other every day. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. When he opened it, Amara gasped. Inside was a ring, different from the one he had given her at their first wedding. This one was rose gold with a band of small diamonds surrounding a center stone that looked like it captured all the colors of her paintings. I had it custom made, Theodore signed. The center stone changes color in different light like your artwork. I wanted something as unique as you are. He got down on one knee on the balcony. Amara Johnson Bennett, will you marry me again? For real this time. No arrangement, no contract. Just love and commitment and choosing each other forever. Amara was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. Theodore slipped the ring onto her finger next to the original one. Then he stood and kissed her, deep and passionate and full of promise. I love you, he signed when they pulled apart. I will love you for the rest of my life. I love you too, Amara signed. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for loving me. Always, Theodore signed. Always and forever. Planning a second wedding turned out to be surprisingly fun. This time, Amara had control over every detail. This time, it would be a celebration of real love, not a hurried arrangement made from desperation and kindness. They decided on a spring ceremony in the garden behind the house. Small and intimate, just family and close friends. Rachel was Amara's maid of honor, and Theodore's best friend from college, Kevin, served as his best man. The morning of the wedding, Amara woke early, too excited to sleep. This time there was no fear, no dread, no worry about being rejected or humiliated. There was only joy and anticipation. Rachel and Patricia helped her get ready. Amara had designed her own dress, working with a local designer to create something unique. It was emerald green, her favorite color, with a flowing skirt and delicate beading on the bodice. She wore her natural curls down with small flowers tucked throughout. You look like a forest goddess, Rachel signed with approval. Theodore is going to lose his mind. Patricia fastened the bracelet she had given Amara around her wrist. Something borrowed, she signed with a warm smile. The ceremony was held at sunset, the garden glowing with soft light. Chairs were arranged in a semicircle facing a flower-covered arch. String lights hung overhead, creating a canopy of stars. When it was time, Amara walked down the aisle alone. She had no father to give her away, no family from her past to witness this moment. But she realized she did not need that. She was walking toward Theodore of her own free will, making her own choice, claiming her own happiness. Theodore waited under the arch, wearing a charcoal suit with an emerald tie. When he saw her, his expression transformed. Love, awe, and joy all played across his face. The officiant, who had married them the first time, signed and spoke simultaneously. But this time the ceremony was different. This time they had written their own vows. Theodore went first, his hands moving with careful precision. Amara, when I met you, I thought I was doing a good deed. I thought I was helping someone in need. But you helped me more than I helped you. You taught me what real courage looks like. You showed me that strength is not about power or control, but about choosing to be vulnerable, choosing to trust, choosing to love even after being hurt. You brought color into my black and white world. You brought joy into my serious life. You brought love into my guarded heart. I promise to support your dreams, to respect your voice, to see you truly every single day. I promise to be your partner, your friend, your biggest fan. I promise to love you not just in the easy moments but in the hard ones too. Today I choose you. Tomorrow I will choose you. Every day for the rest of my life I will choose you. Amara's vision blurred with tears, but she smiled through them. Then it was her turn. Theodore, you saved me. But not in the way fairy tales talk about princes saving princesses. You saved me by showing me I was worth saving. You saw value in me when I could not see it in myself. You gave me space to grow, to find my voice, to become who I was always meant to be. You loved me before I loved myself, and that gave me permission to finally see my own worth. I promise to be honest with you, even when it is hard. I promise to support your dreams the way you have supported mine. I promise to make you laugh, to challenge you, to be your partner in every way. I promise to love you loudly and proudly, to never take for granted the gift of being loved by you. Today I choose you. Tomorrow I will choose you. Every day for the rest of my life I will choose you. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. Theodore pulled Amara close and kissed her as the small group of guests applauded. It was not a huge wedding, not the grand society event Jeremy's family had planned. But it was perfect. It was theirs. The reception was held on the patio, with dinner catered by Helen, who had insisted on cooking for the celebration. There were toasts and laughter and dancing under the stars. Rachel gave a speech that had everyone crying and laughing at the same time, talking about how her brother had finally found someone who made him truly happy. William and Patricia presented them with a gift. A check for $500,000 to start their foundation for deaf artists. We believe in what you are building, William said through the interpreter they had hired to make sure all guests could participate fully. This is seed money to make your vision a reality. Amara and Theodore were speechless. With that kind of funding, they could help dozens of artists, could create real change in the deaf art community. Later in the evening, as they cut the cake, Amara looked around at all the people gathered to celebrate their love. Rachel and Jordan laughing together in a corner. Patricia and William, dancing slowly to music Amara could not hear but could feel in the vibrations through the floor. Helen beaming with pride. Kevin and his wife, chatting with Natasha about art. This was family. This was community. This was love. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Theodore and Amara stood together at the edge of the garden, watching the last rays of sunlight fade from the sky. How did I get so lucky? Amara sighed. I ask myself that question every day, Theodore signed back. They had decided to postpone a honeymoon until after the National Gallery exhibition, wanting to focus on preparing Amara's work for such a prestigious show. But standing there in the garden, Amara realized she did not need a vacation. She was already living her dream. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. The foundation, which they named the Rising Voices Art Initiative, launched with a gala event that raised additional funds and awareness. They awarded their first grants to 5 deaf artists, providing them with money for supplies, studio space and connections to galleries. Amara's work at the National Gallery received incredible reviews. Critics praised her unique voice, her technical skill, her ability to convey emotion through abstract forms. Her pieces sold for prices that made Amara dizzy with disbelief. But more importantly, young deaf artists started reaching out to her. They sent her their work, asked for advice, told her that seeing someone like them succeed gave them hope. That meant more to Amara than any review or price tag. One afternoon, about 6 months after their second wedding, Amara was in her studio working on a new series when Theodore came in with his tablet. I want to show you something, he signed. He pulled up an email with an attachment. It was from a young deaf woman in Ohio who had received one of their grants. She had included photos of her first gallery show, held at a local art center. The paintings were beautiful, full of raw emotion and talent. She says in her email that you inspired her, Theodore signed. That seeing your success made her believe she could do it too. That is what we are building, Amara. Not just supporting individual artists but changing what people believe is possible. Amara wiped away tears. This was why she had survived that terrible day in the Patterson ballroom. This was why Theodore had stepped in when no one else would. So that she could be here now, making a difference, helping others avoid the pain she had endured. We need to expand the program, Amara signed. More grants, more scholarships, more opportunities. I want to reach every deaf artist who thinks their dreams are impossible. Then that is what we will do, Theodore signed. That evening they hosted a dinner party for the foundation board, which included Rachel, Natasha, Elizabeth and several other advocates for deaf artists. They sat around the large dining table discussing plans for the future, dreaming big. At one point, Amara looked around the table and felt overwhelming gratitude. A year ago she had been alone, facing rejection and humiliation. Now she was surrounded by people who believed in her, who supported her vision, who saw her as a leader rather than a burden. After everyone left, Amara and Theodore cleaned up together, moving around the kitchen in the comfortable rhythm they had developed. I have news, Theodore signed as they loaded the dishwasher. Good news? Amara sighed. The best, Theodore signed. I am stepping back from the CEO role at my company. I will stay on as board chair, but I am turning daily operations over to someone else. Amara stared at him. What? You love your company. I love you more, Theodore signed. And I love what we are building together. I want to focus on the foundation, on our life. I have spent 15 years building a company. Now I want to spend the next 15 years building a legacy with you. Amara set down the dish she was holding and crossed to him. Are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything, Theodore signed. Except maybe marrying you. Twice. Amara laughed and kissed him. Okay then. Let's build something incredible. And they did. Over the next 2 years, the Rising Voices Art Initiative became a national organization. They opened satellite offices in 5 cities, awarded grants to over 100 artists, and established scholarship programs at major art schools across the country. Amara continued to create and show her own work, but she found equal fulfillment in mentoring other artists. She taught workshops, gave lectures, and served on panels about disability in the arts. Theodore threw himself into the foundation with the same passion he had once reserved for his tech company. He used his business expertise to secure funding, negotiate partnerships, and build systems that would sustain the organization for decades. Rachel became the foundation's director of outreach, using her personal experience and professional skills to connect with deaf communities across the country. Jordan, who was a marketing professional, helped spread the word about the foundation's work. Helen retired from housekeeping but remained a constant presence in their lives, now officially considered family rather than staff. She often cooked for foundation events and was beloved by everyone who met her. Patricia and William became major donors and advocates, using their social connections to open doors for the foundation. 3 years after that terrible day in the Patterson Ballroom, Amara stood on a stage accepting an award for her advocacy work. The ceremony was at a major hotel, broadcast on television with full captioning and sign language interpretation. Theodore sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Rachel was beside him, recording everything on her phone. Patricia and William sat further back, looking proud as grandparents even though they were not. In her acceptance speech, Amara talked about her journey. She talked about growing up in foster care, about learning to navigate a world that was not designed for deaf people. She talked about that wedding day, about facing the cruelest rejection at what should have been her happiest moment. "I could have let that day destroy me," Amara said, her voice strong and clear. "I could have decided that the world was too cruel, that people like me do not get happy endings. But then a stranger stepped in. He saw me when others looked away. He offered me kindness when others offered mockery. He gave me a chance when others gave me rejection." She looked at Theodore. "That stranger became my husband, my partner, my best friend. Together we built something beautiful. Not just our marriage, but a foundation that helps other deaf artists achieve their dreams. We built a legacy of hope and opportunity." Amara paused, looking out at the audience. "If you are deaf and you think your dreams are impossible, I am here to tell you they are not. If you have ever felt invisible or less than, I am here to tell you that you are valuable exactly as you are. If you have ever been rejected or ridiculed for being different, I am here to tell you that your difference is your strength." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Amara saw tears on many faces. She saw young deaf people in the crowd, watching her with expressions of hope and inspiration. After the ceremony, they were mobbed by well-wishers and reporters. Theodore stayed close, running interference when Amara got overwhelmed, making sure she had space to breathe. On the drive home, exhausted but happy, Amara leaned against Theodore's shoulder. "Thank you," she signed. "For what?" Theodore signed back. "For everything. For seeing me. For loving me. For building this life with me. For being the person who stepped in when I needed someone most." Theodore kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for letting me love you. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Amara. I mean that with my whole heart." They got home to find Helen had left a note. "Congratulations on the award. There is cake in the refrigerator. I am so proud of you both." They ate cake in the kitchen, still in their formal clothes, laughing about some of the awkward moments from the ceremony. Then they went upstairs and changed into comfortable clothes before heading out to the balcony. The garden was beautiful in the moonlight. The fountain they had added last year caught the silvery glow, creating patterns of light and shadow. Amara thought about how far they had come. How much had changed. "Do you ever think about that day?" Amara sighed. "The Patterson wedding?" "Sometimes," Theodore sighed. "I think about how close I came to not attending. I almost sent my regrets. If I had, we never would have met." "Everything would be different," Amara sighed. "Everything would be worse," Theodore sighed. "I cannot imagine my life without you now. You are in every part of it. Every dream I have for the future includes you." "Same," Amara sighed. "I look back at who I was before I met you and I barely recognize that person. I was so small, so afraid, so convinced I was a burden. And now," Theodore sighed. "Now I know my worth," Amara sighed. "I know I have value. I know I deserve love and respect and opportunities. You taught me that. The foundation taught me that. All the artists we have helped, they taught me that. I finally understand that being deaf is not a weakness. It is just part of who I am." Theodore pulled her close. "I love who you are. Every part. I always have. I always will." They sat on the balcony for a long time, comfortable in the silence, in each other's presence. No words were needed. They had built a language of their own, a way of communicating that went beyond signs or speech. It was the language of love, of trust, of two people who had found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk toward the light together. Amara thought about all the young deaf people who had watched her accept that award tonight. She hoped they saw possibility in her story. She hoped they saw that happy endings were not just for fairy tales, that real life could surprise you, that kindness and love and hope could triumph over cruelty and rejection. She hoped they would believe in themselves the way Theodore had believed in her. Because that was the real gift Theodore had given her. Not money or opportunities or connections, though those had all been wonderful. The real gift was belief. He had believed in her when she could not believe in herself. He had seen her potential when she could only see her limitations. He had loved her so completely that she learned to love herself. And now she and Theodore were passing that gift forward. Through the foundation, through their advocacy, through the lives they touched. They were teaching other deaf artists to believe in themselves, to see their own value, to refuse to be made small by a world that did not always understand them. They were creating change, one artist at a time, one grant at a time, one opportunity at a time. As Amara drifted off to sleep that night, safe in Theodore's arms, she thought about the title of her favorite painting. Becoming. That was what her life had been about. Not just surviving but becoming. Becoming confident. Becoming whole. Becoming someone who could help others become too. She had been laughed at when she arrived at that wedding. They had mocked her, rejected her, treated her like she was worthless. But Theodore had looked at that same woman and seen value. Seen beauty. Seen worth. And he had been right. She was not just as good as them. She was better. Better because she had faced adversity and survived. Better because she had turned pain into purpose. Better because she had chosen kindness and love and hope when it would have been easier to choose bitterness and anger. They had laughed when the deaf bride arrived. But Amara had the last laugh. Because she had found real love, built a meaningful life, and was changing the world. And that was the best revenge of all. Not revenge that hurt, but revenge that healed. Revenge that proved every cruel person wrong not through anger or payback, but through success and happiness and joy. Amara Johnson Bennett had arrived at that wedding broken and alone. She had left it as someone's wife, someone's partner, someone's equal. And now, 3 years later, she was a successful artist, a foundation leader, an advocate, and most importantly, a woman who knew her own worth. The story that had started with humiliation had ended with triumph. The woman they had laughed at had become the woman they envied. And the man who had stepped in to defend her had become the love of her life. It was not the ending Amara had planned. It was better. Because it was real, earned, and built on a foundation of genuine love and mutual respect. Theodore had been right that first night when he told her she was worth more than all of them combined. He had seen what no one else could see. He had believed when no one else would believe. And together they had built something beautiful. A life, a love, a legacy. Forever.